Hello, it's me. I've been in UGL since Season 1. I subbed in during Season 2 till I wanted a break from in-game, but I'm back again and I've got this brand new draft. And I wanted to review it. Haven't really reviewed a draft in a while, but, you know, I just liked this draft. It just felt good to me. So, I was picked 5 of, I believe, 14. My original goal was to go Mew, but in the end, Mew got picked first overall, which makes sense, very good mon. Then Dragapult fell to 5th. Honestly, I probably should have put these point values here. Luckily I remember them because I'm that good. Let me actually put these on. And yes, some of these are going to be quite sad when you're reading them. Such as stat 1. Oh! Either way, Dragapult's 18 points, which is the maximum. We were given 95 points for 10 Pokemon. 18 is the max, 1 is the minimum, and Dragapult, I mean, it makes sense. In 10 mons, it's insanely good. It's borderline the best mon in the format, if not just straight up the best mon in the format. It's a mon I hadn't gotten around to trying. I wasn't too interested in trying it, and I thought, honestly, it would be picked before me. But it didn't get picked, so here we are. It's just insanely good. I mean, you know why Dragapult's good. Very solid attack stat, incredible speed control, good special attack stat, very good move pool on both sides, good setup. A lot of the utility ghost types usually have. It's got Wisp and Thunder Wave, which is a really good combination, actually. It means you can be both anti-physical offense, being like a fighting immunity with Wisp, or you can just be separate, like anti-offense with Thunder Wave, just slowing a lot of other fast mons down. Which I think this team is going to like a lot. If I want to bring Hex, it's generally going to be Dragapult itself setting up the status. A lot of these other mons learn something like Toxic, but aren't generally going to be clicking it too much. Clef kind of being the exception here, and to an extent Mesprit's pretty good at spreading Thunder Wave as well. But it's mainly going to be a one-man road if I want to run Hex Pult. But it's fine. I mean, Shadow Ball's great move, DD's really strong, Darts is insane. I mean, you know what Dragapult does. So then, to power Dragapult, I went Scizor. Scizor at 14 I thought was incredibly good value. Sizzle's great as well. It's a mixture between a breaker, being a cleaner, and having good defense utility. Obviously, SD Bullet Punch and Choice Band Bullet Punch are classic sets. Technician really is just an insane ability for it with Bullet Punch. Really good as a pivot. Roost is an incredibly useful ability. Bug Steel is, as always, incredible typing. Other great moves as well, stuff like Knockoff. I mean, Toxic, obviously, but I mean, I'll say Toxic on every mon here. Some new stuff like Dual Wing Beat to hit stuff like Buzzwole if I ever have to face it. Curse is an occasional useful thing, and some other cool stuff like Sand Tomb down here as well. Just a cool mon overall. It's good, it has good defense utility with Dragapult. It is the Fairy and Ice Resist, while Dragapult is the Fire Resist. And it has good utility with the next pick I'm going to say, which is Snorlax. Snorlax at 10 I thought was incredibly good. Snorlax is a great mon. It can act as both a bulky win con as well as just a general special pivot. 160, 110 isn't Blissey levels, but it's definitely getting close. The pure normal typing is great, especially on what is primarily a specially defensive mon. I have, as you've probably seen, Clefable later, which is going to be a primarily physically defensive mon, if, you know, Scizor or Mesprit or Leafeon aren't able to fulfill that role. So that's good for Snorlax. Obviously it has insanely good coverage, both physically and specially. The Curse sets are great, more supportive sets are great. Immunity is really good. Thick Fat is insanely good, especially because you're surrounded here by 4x Fire weakness and Landorus, which is a 4x Ice weakness. So if ever any mons come in on either of these two, Snorlax comes straight in, and then Snorlax can just do, you know, it has a free turn, because it's really bulky, it has probably the coverage to kill whatever's in front of it, and it's able to generate kind of momentum that way. Some cool stuff that people kind of don't use too much, stuff like Encore, stuff like Counter to an extent, but I mean, Counter's a little gimmicky. And then obviously, Yawn's alright, Toxic. I will always say Toxic's a good move, because it just is. You just get free stuff if you click Toxic. You know, has funny stuff like Block, has Happy Hour, has whatever. But yeah, Snorlax is great. So then I went for the Lando Eye. As you can kind of tell, Pult has no hazards whatsoever. Scizor is a defogger, which it is a good defogger, but not always the best. Snorlax has no hazards either. So I wanted something that could compress both. I went Landorus here. Got Defog. Got Stealth Rocks. Sandforce only, that's why it's 12 points, but even at 12 I think it's quite cheap. Having both of these, very solid 101 speed tier, solid attack, solid special attack. Highest, actually, special attack of any ground type. And, well, any ground type in the game currently. And that means it's just the highest overall, because ground types that aren't in the game, if we can just have a look here, are all Megas. I think the only Pokemon that hits harder... No, Camerupt actually hits less hard. Yep, it is just the strongest with, you know, choice specs if I want to run it. Life Orb, which you would usually run on Cheer Force, of course, but still decent on normal Landorus Incarnate here with Sandforce. Very good support move pool with moves like Knockoff and U-Turn. Toxic again, very nice. The ability to use either Earth Power or Earthquake is really nice. And it's just an overall really solid mon, you know, multiple setup options. I can run Bulk Up, Calm Mind, SD, Rock Polish. I mean, it does what Landorus T does, with less defensive utility and a much better special attacking set. Nothing else really to say. I mean, it does what it does. Roleplay is potentially interesting, but I doubt I'll get to use it too much. A couple other things, you know, like Explosion's nice. Gravity is always a possibility, but again, you know, kind of gimmicky down here. So then, it was at this point I got sniped on Clefable, which made sense at the time. I mean, Clefable was getting to round 5 here. You know, it made sense. But I then had to pivot around my plan a little bit, had to change some things. So I went Roserade here. Now, eventually, I was able to convince the Clefable owner to make a 1-for-1 trade with me, using Comfey as their fairy. So I then dropped Roserade instantly during transactions and picked up Leafeon. Now, as you might have seen later, I also have Vileplume. So what's the point of having this other 2-point grass type on this team? Well, Leafeon does a few things here. First of all, it's the 95 speed tier. It kind of stops some base 100s and like anything between 100 and I guess 95 from going modest. Stuff like Hydreigon, stuff like Victini. Because all of them actually don't really appreciate, you know, Leafeon doing quite a bit of damage. I mean, 95, 110, not bad. Stuff like X-Scissor, stuff like Knockoff here as well. Always the best move. And a Grass Stab in general. But what's really nice about Leafeon, really, is the big defense is a very good ground type switch in, which otherwise, I do have a flying type, of course, and I do have a Levitate Mon. But still, I felt a little ground weak, and I thought this would be nice. And the one last thing Leafeon does on this team is it provides a secondary Cleric. As is the case with all the evolutions, it gets Wish, it gets Heal Bell, it gets Baton Pass. Sometimes, if I don't want to war on something like Wish Teleport Clef, then I'll run Wish on Leafeon, if I need to run Wish, of course. Which is just a nice little bit of flexibility. It means that Clef and, to an extent, Mesprit, who also has some, you know, Cleric abilities, aren't too pressured to do them, because for the most part, you know, Landorus is physical and special, physical and special, physical, physical, this is physical, Clef is special, physical, special, special, physical. So you can see there's kind of that tendency for most of my special mons to be a little bulkier, or to be mixed. Stuff like Landorus, Dragapult, and then bulkier stuff like Vileplume, Clef, Mesprit. You know, I have a good balance, but it can still be a little rough on these, so it's nice that I will be able to have the freedom to bring offensive Clef more often, offensive Mesprit more often, etc. Anyway, let's get into Clef. I drafted Comfey here originally, then I did the trade. So what did Clef actually do for this team? Well, it's a fairy of Stealth Rocks, which is a pretty rare sight, which is very nice. Let me describe everything that Clef does. So it is a Cleric with stuff like Aromatherapy and Wish, It is a bulky pivot with teleport. It is a Calm Mind sweeper with magic guard. It is an anti-sweeper with unaware. It is a solid just fairy type in general with access to Moonblast, a good special attack stat. It's somehow able to wall everything in the game with its bulk. It's weird, Clef just does that though. It has exceptionally good coverage, just about every type really, you know, stuff like Thunderbolt, stuff like Flamethrower, stuff like Ice Beam, Knockoff, Toxic, Dual Wing Beat, Media Mash, you know, the whole thing. It's impressive how much coverage Clef has, and it's very good at using it as well. You know, you might be playing on ladder quite a bit, and you'd be like, oh, you know, all these Clefs nowadays, they're just soft-boiled Moonblast, and then 2 filler moves like this. And this is a fine set. I think this type of set could work on this team. It supports Pulp by quite a bit, and it's generally self-sufficient. It's able to check quite a few offensive threats, stuff like maybe Garchomp, for example, which unaware Clef is kind of the best Garchomp check out there, as much as obviously it gets chipped down, but, you know, Boots exists for a reason. You know, it just does a lot, but at any other point, I could say, okay, let's get rid of this Calm Mind, Thunderbolt, or, you know, I'll be mentioning something else later, but, you know, I could bring any type of set like this, you know, Flamethrower for the weak, Ice Beam for the weak, whatever I need. Just super good, man. It just does so much. It's incredible. And it just did so much for this team as well, and I'm very glad that I was able to pinch it off of the guy. Thank you, jamming, God bless. So then, because I knew I was getting Clef at this point, I decided to go for what I thought was the most important mon left, which could get sniped, which was Sneasel. So Sneasel at 3 points is kind of insane. I mean, Sneasel kind of has 1 or 2 sets. You know, it's using this type of set most of the time, this kind of SD Sash set. You know, I mean, it does it just about as well as Weavile, just with less power. You know, you try and pickpocket to steal items after your Sash gets broken, stuff like that. And then the other more obvious, well, less obvious, I guess, was just the Choice Band set. You know, this kind of exact same thing with, you know, maybe low Kitty's coverage, maybe Psycho Cut, you know, whatever. Very simple, just offensive Dark type here. You know, you'd think with a solid Ghost type up here, I'd want a more defensive one. You know, Dragapult Mandibuzz is a very common core, but I liked the idea of Snorlax being my general answer to what annoys Dragapult. Because if Lax is my Ghost resist, and I have Clefable as a Dark resist, there's really not too much that annoys Dragapult at that point. And I have obviously Scizor as the Fairy resist as well, and the Ice resist. Snorlax is also the Ice resist. You know, there's a lot of just utility there compressed, there's a lot of synergy there compressed. So Sneasel's just able to act independently of all that, and just kill things. Which is nice, it's nice. Because, I mean, as offensive as this team can be, that every single mon I've said can be running a defensive set, so far. And this next mon is no different. Mesprit is another offensive or defensive mon, I don't know. No innate recovery here, of course. I don't think, apart from rest. So it's a lot more of a pivot in and out a couple times, get stuff like Rocks up, which is very nice. Decent with Calm Mind, because it has access to the coveted Volt Beam coverage. Yeah, I mean, something like this. In this slot, it could run something like, no, it does not get taunt. Huh. Didn't know. Can run Encore, though. What am I saying? Encore, though. Which is basically taunt, but cooler. You know, it has cool stuff like U-Turn, which is very nice, Trick Room, and something which I was very interested in, which was Rain Dance. Yes, every weather. It's not just Rain Dance. And any weather, honestly, benefits my team. I have Vileplume as a Chlorophyll sweeper, as well as Leafeon. So, I have a very anti-sun team here. Rain benefits Scizor, as well as Kabutops here. And then Sand benefits Landorus, and to an extent Clefable. It's very weird, but it means if I want to just run a weather one week, I can. If Leafeon offensively is really good, let's just run a Heat Rock, why don't we? Is Kabutops insane and Scizor unkillable? Why not a Damp Rock? Is Landorus gonna be able to click Earthquake on every single mon in front of it? Just chuck a Smooth Rock on there. I like that Mesprit's able to do a lot of that. Has a very nice, balanced, stat spread overall. Its physical moves aren't really as good as its special moves, but it has some nice ones here. Stuff like Knockoff, stuff like Play Rough, because I believe it only has Dazzling Gleam. Drain Punch is nice, because I think it doesn't get any other fighting coverage. Yeah. So it's just a nice mon. Just does a lot. Rocks are kind of nice on it as well. So now with that, I have Rocks on Landorus, Rocks on Clef, Rocks on Mesprit, and Rocks on Kabutops down here as well. So 4 Rock Setters, no spikes, no nothing, no reason to, I think. I just like Rocks here. Just, you're setting Rocks every game. Rocks aren't a playstyle, spikes are a playstyle, and this isn't a spikes team. So then I have Vileplume. I really like Vileplume at 4. It's a Grass Poison type, so solid Fairy Resist, solid Fighting Resist. Very good stats. I've used it before. It has some very cool stuff like Moonblast and Strength Sap, which overall make it have a lot of surprise factor, huge amount of longevity. It has a legendary SD set with Sub, some decent physical moves, very solid special attack, which makes its offensive sets kind of scary. Especially, if you're getting like a Sludge Wave type of, strength there. It also has the best move, Pedal Blizzard, which is a physical grass type move, which just hits harder than Seed Bomb, which I just think is funny. It also, I believe, has Blossom. What's the move called? Petal Dance. Yeah, it is. It's not Blossom Dance. This ain't Dunban. This is Duncan. Because it can win games. Yeah. Effects Ball's a really good ability. Chlorophyll's really good in the sun. It's just generally another part of a triple weather-esque team I have going on. So then we end triple weather with Kabutops. Kabutops is great. Rapid Spinner, Stealth Rocks, Flip Turn new, very nice. And it has a bunch of different cool stuff in running last. This is saying I'm not Burning Rain, of course. You can run Knockoff last. Great utility set. Okay, what if I have Rain? All of a sudden, I can run SD Rapid Spin, Liquidation, Stone Edge, because Water Rock is pretty hard to switch into. I can be Choice Band. I can be running Choice Band with Flip Turn here, and then Choice Band Rapid Spin as a good form of removal, and all of a sudden, how are you switching into this? And if you are switching into this, how are you stopping it from just Flip Turning out and going into something like Scizor? And then Scizor comes in, and then U-turns out, and then this just kind of Volt Turn Core, even though there's no Volt to be seen. It just works really well. Now that is actually a good point I've just made. There is no Volt to be seen. This team lacks a couple things. Well, it lacks one thing, really. It lacks an electric type. Leafeon could very easily be changed to Magnetric, but I think Leafeon provides enough of a role on this team, and as a 2-pointer, it's something I would actually bring, which is kind of impressive. So, I kind of don't want an electric. So, I said before that Clef's last move could be interesting, but last move would just be Thunder. My electric type this season is gonna be Thunder. My switch into flying types is going to be Snorlax exclusively, or Kabutops if they can, or Clef if Clef needs to do it, or Mesprit if Mesprit needs to do it. There's a lot of, freedom on this team to do stuff like that. Just, okay, this mon doesn't hit me super effectively, so I can wall it, type of thing. Which is nice. I like teams like that just have a lot of freedom. This team might have some bad matchups, but I don't think it'll ever have an unwinnable matchup. And that's what I like in a team. I never like to go into a game and be like, oh, I'm not winning this. And I think there's just nothing out there that really beats this. Single-handedly. There's no mon that just absolutely obliterates it. It has some really good blanket checks and stuff like Snorlax and Clef, which synergize well together. a very solid offensive core that has a lot of defensive utility. It's just an overall very fun team. I'm excited to use it. I'm excited to see other people's teams. Thanks to KJ for introducing me to the league oh so long ago. It's been a great old time. We can have a look at some other teams. Have a look at some tiers as well. You know, very standard stuff. UGL's always been a very good league. Very nice tiers. But there's always been a couple that slip through the cracks. You know, stuff like Snorlax at 10. Stuff like Weave Sneasel at 3. There's always those couple that are just very nice. And I just take advantage of it, because I'm a bad person. I take advantage of things. You know, I'll give KJ's team a shout out, because I'm here. The Cleveland Indeedies Zapdos. Now you see, when I said, you know, my flying resist is like Snorlax, see, Zapdos actually can't break Snorlax, because Snorlax is too cool. Now Snorlax, what it does back is it clicks Toxic, or it clicks Whirlwind because it's funny, to be honest. But either way, Snorlax is a decent Zapdos check. Has been for ages. So that flying type doesn't work. Well, I mean, obviously Zapdos has ways around it. I mean, I'm not just saying it's perfect here. But, like, a lot of flying types without an electric type as a flying resist are still gonna be fine. K's team's really cool, though. I like the pivot-style gameplay with stuff like Zapdos, Slowking, with a lot of these really strong breakers like Weavile, Melmel, Nidoking, a couple other pivots like Decidueye, Teleport to Fairy, and I believe Torracat gets Parting Shot. If not, it just gets U-turn. Let's see, come on, get something cool. Ooh, it does get Parting Shot, that's a cool mon. Torracat's cool. Not the best bulk, though, a little sad in that department. And then some other breakers like Tauros and Gerda down there. Yeah, it's a cool team. Not as cool as my team, though. I am the ATK. What does it stand for? Well, I'll tell you. It stands for... let me go over here. The Zero Attack Ferocity Gyrable 150 base power versus 252 HP, 0 defense, Cryogonal has a 31.3% chance to OHKO. Which is just a really funny calc I figured out playing in a different league. Which is just cool. It's just cool. Completely unrelated though. Yeah. I like this team. See you all next time.